Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. We are studying the commentary by Shankaracharya on the second sutra. On the second sutra. Janmadhyasya yatah. And in the previous passage we saw that there is an objection. The objection is that if you are going to talk about existing entity, so if Brahman is an existing entity, then why do we need the study of Vedanta? That's not necessary. We don't need to study Vedanta because we know from common wisdom that existing entities are known through the means of knowledge, 6 means of knowledge starting from direct perception. So if something is existing, you just see it or you infer it and so on and so forth. So why do you need to study the scriptures or the Vedas or the Vedanta, that is Upanishads? That is the question. It is a anarthika prapta. It is a purposeless venture. Because if you say that it is a bhuta vastu, it is an existing entity, then existing entity need not be studied through Vedas. It can be very well understood empirically. So why do you have to waste time studying the Vedas? That's the question. So here Shankaracharya refutes that argument, puts aside or sets aside that argument. He says, no. Indriya avishayatvena sambandha agrahanat. So it is not the object of sense organs. All the things which we understand using our sense organs, or the things which we understand using 6 means of knowledge, Shat Pramana, are all understood through sense organs. But Atman or Brahman is not something which you can understand through sense organs. So it is something Indriya Avishayatva, because of it being not an object of the sense organs. Sambandha Agrahanat. So then because of it's not being a object of sense organs, the relationship of Brahman, or that one is connected with Brahman, that relationship is not understood. It is not understood. Relationship means I am that Atman. I am that Atman. That relationship is not understood. Why? Because of it not being understood by the sense organs. So when we go and stand in front of the mirror, we see a reflection of our body. It's a mirror reflection, and then we say that here am I standing, here I am standing. So we can see the image or reflection through the sense organs, and so we have a valid cognition. We have a valid knowledge. Whereas in the case of Atman or Brahman, that is not how we get the knowledge of Atman or Brahman. And that is the problem here. Because we don't get the knowledge of Atman or Brahman through our sense organs, we cannot use the means of knowledge to understand the sense, the Atman or Brahman. That is means of knowledge through the sense organs to understand Atman or Brahman. And so though it is an existing reality, it cannot be understood like other existing objects because it is not an object of the sense organs. That is what Shankaracharya is saying here. Then he says, Swabhavatah Vishaya Vishayani Indriyani na Brahma Vishayani. So Indriyani, the sense organs, they have their object as sense objects. As their objects, they have sense objects. Not Brahma Vishayani. Brahman is never the object of sense organs. By their very nature, sense organs have sense objects as their objects. So eye has got form. Ear has got sound. Nose has got smell. Tongue has got taste. Skin has got touch. So in this manner, all these sense organs, they operate. So they have the 5 sense organs. They have 5 categories of sense objects. So it's all connected. The elements are connected to the sense objects. The sense objects are connected to the sense organs. So first, what happened in the process of creation, as we see in the Taittiriya Upanishad, first Akasha was created, that is, space was created. In space, what do we have? What kind of sense object do we have in space? We have only sound in space, and it's a fact. In space, different kinds of frequencies are available. If you go to the website of NASA, you will see there are different recordings of the static sound found in space. So there are different frequencies are there. So that is Shabda. First, sound. And sound is, of course, one of the, or it is the most subtle sense object. That is why it sometimes is very difficult to listen to what people are saying. Much more difficult to remember different notes and half notes, semi-note, etc. That's why it's very difficult to understand classical music, to really understand. You hear it and you feel good, that's a different thing. But if you want to really understand, because it's the subtlest sense object and subtlest sense organ. So how is the sense organ? What is the sense organ for sound? Ear. Ears are the sense organ for the sound. Then you have from Akasha, you get the next thing is Akashat Vayu. So Vayu or air was created. So in air, there are 2 sense objects now. Air has got sound also, and it has got, what else does it have? It has got touch. Touch also another sense it has got. So when wind comes, it also produces sound. It also, you can feel wind. You can feel air. So you have automatically ears and skin. Vayu or Agnihi. So from then after Vayu, fire is created. So fire has now got 3 sense objects. Fire has got form, and fire also has got sound. So when something is burnt, the burning sound comes. And fire, of course, has got heat. So touch also is there, feeling also is there. So there are 3 sense objects involved. And fire, the sense organ is eyes. Then Agner Apaha. From Agni comes, after Agni comes water. Now water has got 4 sense objects. Water, when it flows, it creates sound. And you can touch the water and you will feel either cold or whatever. Of course, water, the natural tendency of water is Shitala, means it is cold. So one kind of coldness you will feel. Only when fire is added to water, it becomes warm or hot. Otherwise, naturally, water is always cold. Then, so feeling is there, the touch sense is there, sense object, touch. Then comes form. It takes the form of the container or wherever it goes. So you can see water also. And the fourth one is taste. Taste, water tastes. So there is a taste, whatever taste that may be, there's a taste. So these four sense objects are there in water. And all the four sense organs are involved. And the grossest sense organ sense object is smell. In this kind of evolution, because Adbhya Prithvi, so earth has smell, but it also has all the other sense objects. Earth has sound, it definitely makes sound. And earth has, after sound, you have touch. You can, earth has touch. The sense of touch is there. Then earth has got form. Of course, it has got form. And earth has taste. And then finally, earth has smell. So the elements which we see around us are all what is in Vedantic language called Panchikrita Bhuta. That means one half of the element is pure that element, and the other half is divided into four parts, and it is mixed with other elements. So if when we see water, it is only 50% water, 12.5% it is fire, 12.5% it is earth, 12.5% it is space, and 12.5% it is air. Such is the case with all the other elements. So Panchikrita Bhutani. So they are all the great elements which have gone through the process of Panchikarana. Now, so the Indriyas, all the sense organs, they have only sense objects as their objects. They don't have Brahman as their objects. Why? Because that's, to explain that, I told you all this sequence. Because only when ignorance comes into play, only when the universe is created, all these five elements are created. When five elements are created, they correspondingly give rise to, at the individual level, they give rise to five sense organs, which correspond to five elements. That is the idea. So five elements, five sense objects, five sense organs. So Brahman is at the source of the universe. That means even when ignorance is not there, Brahman is always there. In fact, even when ignorance comes, nothing happens to Brahman. It's all the play of ignorance or avidya or maya or adhyasa, whatever you may call it. So there is no way, it is quite implausible or it is quite illogical that Brahman will be the object of sense organs. Brahman can never be the object of sense organs, because sense organs are created by misreading Brahman, by a wrong understanding of Brahman. So how can Brahman be the object of sense organ? It's like saying that there will be poison of snake in the rope. It will never be there, because to begin with, there was no snake. There is only rope. Even when you think there is snake, there is only one rope is there. So how will you extract poison, snake's poison, from the rope? You cannot. If you go to some snake parks, like in Chennai, there is a huge snake park in Gindi. So if you go there, they have shows. At sometimes they have shows, and they, I think they sell ticket also for that. That they will show how to extract poison from the snake. And of course, they keep it, and it has got huge medicinal value. I believe they also sell it, etc. Now, but if you think that the rope which you have mistaken to be snake has poison, and you want to extract poison out of that, what will you extract? Maybe some fibers may come out, depending on what kind of rope is in question here. But there will be no poison there, because to begin with, there was no rope. So this I'm telling because we have to understand the logic here. Why does, see, Shankaracharya is no fool, of course we know that. He's a great genius. So why does he suddenly say Swabhavata Vishya Vishayani Indriyani na Brahma Vishayani? That everybody knows. What is the big deal in that, as we say? So the idea is to point out that Brahman cannot be the object of something which has been created by ignorance. Because Brahman, when we say it is the source of the world, it is the source of the world. That's what now it is being told. Janmadi asya yataha. So from which all this has been born, etc. That means born, sustained, and destroyed. So if it is the source, how will that source be shown by something which is a wrong understanding of the source? It cannot be possible. So that is why he says, Satihi Indriya Vishayatva Brahmanaha Idam Brahmana Sambaddham Karyamiti Grihyata. So Satihi, only if Indriya Vishayatva Brahmanaha, Brahman were the, if only if Brahman were the object of the sense organs, Idam, this Brahmana Sambaddham Karyam iti. Only then this, with this Brahman, there will be this effect, that is this world, this prapancha, this universe. That universe can be told to be the effect of Brahman. So Brahman is cause and effect is this world. So that could be comprehended through the sense organs. If Brahman were the object of sense organs. Just like we have the chicken and egg question. We don't know whether chicken came first or egg came first. We chicken out during this discussion, but the point is whether chicken came or egg came, we can see that something comes out of something else. We can see that. So either chicken comes out of, a chick comes out of an egg, or an egg comes out of a chicken. We can see that. So that is very much the object of our sense organs. Similarly, Brahman were the object of sense organs, then we could have seen from Brahman, this universe is coming out. So he's just humoring the opponent. So it is not like that. Now that is not possible. Karyamatram eva tu grihyamanam kim brahmana sambandham kim anyena kenachitva sambandham iti na shakyam nishchetum. See, the point of humoring that, okay, you are telling like this. Okay, if it were only the object of sense organs, then we could have seen, this is Brahman. From there, just like from an egg, chick hatches out, that like that from Brahman, this universe is coming. We could have seen that and it would have been very clear. But the point is, we cannot see like that. So, karyame matram eva tu grihyamanam. Here, we can only see the effect. We cannot see the cause, which is Brahman. So, we are only seeing the effect. Karya matram, only the effect. Eva, indeed, tu, but grihyamanam. But indeed, we only see the effect. Grihyamanam, we can only comprehend or apprehend the effect. Kim Brahmana Sambaddham. So there is a doubt whether it is related to Brahman, Kim Anyena Kenachitva Sambaddham, or whether it is related with something else. How do we know? So we are saying Brahman because we are all somehow, maybe we have got brainwashed. Brahman brainwash has happened. Whitewash, brainwash, all that same thing. So some quoting Brahman. We are seeing. Another person, maybe suppose a physics cosmologist, he or she will say Big Bang, like that, something they will say. Some other person will be taught something else. Because all this saying, a person who has realized the truth does not simply say that person knows. But all other people, we are all uha poha, means we are all conjectures and surmises. We are just guessing, guesswork we are doing. So how do we know? How do we know for sure that it is from Brahman or from something else? We don't know. Iti na shakyam nishchetum. So it is not possible to nishchetum, to decide. So it is not possible, it's impossible to decide whether Brahman came from, whether this universe came from Brahman. So we only know the effect. So we don't know whether it is connected. That means this effect, the cause of this effect is Brahman, or whether the cause of this effect is something else. We don't know. So when we don't know, tasmad janmadi sutram na anumana upanyasa artham. And therefore, janmadi sutram, the second sutra, janmadi yasya, janmadi asya yatah. So of this universe, janma adi, birth and so on, from where it comes. That sutram, the second sutra, na anumana upanyasa artham. It is not for the sake of explaining inference. It is not for the sake of explaining inference. That is, or it is not for the purpose of, if you use another word, syllogism. That is inference. It is not for the sake of establishing inference. That means here all the 6 pramanas will not come into play. That is the point. Kim tarhi, then what is the purpose of this sutra? Vedanta Vakya Pradarshanartham. It has got the purpose, artha, of Vedanta Vakya Pradarshana. Vedanta means, we know, the end of the Vedas, Upanishads, or the summary of the Vedas, even then the Upanishads. So it has got the purpose of telling us the meaning or describing the meaning, Pradarshana, explaining the meaning of Vedantic sentences, Upanishadic sentences, Vedantic passages. Vedanta Vakya literally means sentence. So Vedantic passages or Vedantic sentences. That is the only purpose of this sutra. So now, after all these kind of clarifications, now Shankaracharya, he gets to the point. The point being, to understand the meaning of the second sutra, Janmadyasya Yatah. What is the meaning of the sutra? Kim punaha tad Vedanta Vakyam yat sutrena iha lilakshayishitam. So now we said, Shankaracharya says, we just now said that the purpose of the sutra is to explain the meaning of Vedantic passages. So now the question is automatically, which Vedantic passage does the sutra wants to explain? Which one? There are Vedantic passages, means the whole Veda, so many Vedantic passages, Vedantic sentences are there. So which one is being explained here? Kim punaha tad Vedanta Vakyam. What is that Vedantic passage or Upanishadic passage? Yat, which is Sutrena iha lilaksha yishitam, which is here by this sutra, lilaksha ishitam. Lilaksha ishitam means, lilaksha isha means lakshayatum icha, means the desire to indicate. The desire to indicate is called lilaksha isha. Like jignasa is the desire to know. Pipasa is the desire to drink. Like that, jijivisha is the desire to live. Like that, lilaksha isha is the desire to indicate. So what is intended or desired to be indicated? Which Upanishadic passage or which Upanishadic sentence it's desired to be indicated here in through the second sutra of the Brahma Sutra? So that is also another reminder. After so many discussion, we are only in the second sutra. So there are 555 sutras. So there is no hurry. It's a meditation on Upanishads. It's a meditation on the Vedantic statements. So let us all have patience. Let us not have any kind of hope that we will finish it any soon. So let us understand things, whatever we are understanding, let us try to understand as much as we can so that it will lead to contemplation. Let us also not have the egotistic attitude that we have understood the sutras. So if we have properly understood the sutras, then we will definitely become knowers of Brahman. That is the whole purpose, whole point. So let us have that particular attitude here. And so the second sutra, what is being intended or desired to be indicated by the second sutra? That's the question. So there, the intended passage is being now told. It is, of course, from the Taittiriya Upanishad, which we have already understood. We have already hinted at that. I mean, Shankaracharya has already hinted at that. Many earlier also he has referred to that sentence. But now he tells the passage. He quotes the passage from the beginning. Bhrigur vai varunihi varunam pitaram upasasara adihi bhagavo brahmeti iti upakramya aha. So it starts with like this. What? The starting is like that. Bhrigur vai varuni means Bhrigu, indeed the son of Varuna. Bhrigur vai means indeed, means of course he is well known or popular son of Varuna. Varunam pitaram upasasara. So because he is son of Varuna, his father is of course Varuna. That is the way it is written here. So because he is the son of Varuna, who is his father? Father is Varuna. So Varunam pitaram. So to his father, that is Varuna, he went upasasara. He went near his father and he said, Adihi bhagavo brahmeti. Bhagavan means like sir. A person who has the qualities of Bhaga, 6 qualities. The group of those 6 qualities are called Bhaga. So a person who has those qualities, that is Bhagavan. So he says, O Bhagavan, means O honorable person or sir. Adihi Brahma, you teach me about Brahman. Iti, like that he said. Who said? Bhrigu said to his father. So in the Upanishads, we will see an interesting connection between father and son. Most of the times, the school system, even in the Upanishadic days, people were not very satisfied with the education system. So it is not something new today. Okay. Many people are saying, hey, education system is all bad. Okay. It is a very old thing. In the Chandogya Upanishad also, when the son Shvetakeshu comes from the school and the father asks, have you known that which cannot be known? Then the son thinks, oh, we have a problem here. I have to call the psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever the person was calling at those days. So then the father says, no, you have not understood the thing. So beta, now I have to teach you, because anyway, this whole schooling, the whole expenditure on your education has gone to waste, which is the dialogue. Even now whenever it is convenient, we say that dialogue. Okay. So that was there at that time also. 9 times he said, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. And finally, Shvetaketu realized that he is that. So here also, father is teaching, or Bhrigu is approaching his father Varuna, that please teach me Brahman. Please teach me what is Brahman. Iti upakramya. It begins this passage, which is what is being explained by the second sutra of Vedanta Vakyartha Pradarshanartham. Shankaracharya said in the previous passage that the goal of the sutra is to explain the purpose or the meaning purport of the Vedantic passages. So if that is the case, this particular sutra is explaining the passage which is like this in the Taittiriya Upanishad, in the third chapter of the Taittiriya Upanishad. This is our third section, you might say, of the Taittiriya Upanishad. This is what it begins like. It begins with this passage And then iti upakramya, it begins so. Aha, it is told there. Yatova imani bhutani jayante. And this is the sentence which has been quoted by Shankaracharya earlier also. Yatova imani bhutani jayante. From which all these living beings are born. Yena jatani jivanti. By which all that are born are sustained or they live. Yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. And also to which all that depart, that means when they die, abhisamvishanti, they return to. Tad vijignyasasva, that you have to know. Tad vijignyasasva, that you have to know. This is the idea. So vijignyasasva means you should inquire, you should know. So you should try to know, or you should seek to know. Vijignyasasva. And tad brahma, and that is Brahman. So let us not have any doubt that yatova imani bhutani jayante, from which all these living beings come. And yena jatani jivanti, from which all these living beings get their sustenance or they live, because of which they live. And yat prayanti abhisamvishanti, on their departure or on their death or destruction, where do they go to? Where they go. Tad vijignyasasva, that you have to know. And tad brahma, that is Brahman. That is the idea. So that is Brahman. So this is the passage in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Tasya cha nirnayaka vakyam. Also here Shankaracharya says, and that is the beauty of Shankaracharya, in a very simple language, he is bringing us the core of the issue here, the moot point of the issue, or the important point of the issue. He says, Tasya cha nirnayaka vakyam, of that Vedantic passage which I have just quoted, which is what is being explained by this sutra. Nirnayaka vakyam, determining statement or determinative statement or decisive statement, important conclusive statement. What is that? Anandatyeva khalu imani bhutani jayante, anandena jatani jivanti, anandam prayanti abhisamvishanti iti. So anandatyeva, from ananda alone. Ananda means we translate it as bliss. But somehow some translations are not quite the same. For example, if you translate Atman as soul, it doesn't mean a thing actually. Because for soul stirring music, imagine soul stirring music, HMV, or now it is what? Saregama, whatever. So soul stirring music, how can your soul be stirred? What, it is like sharbat or what, you will stir the soul. So soul has got a different connotation in English. And if we say Atman is soul, because many people want to become very, fashionable. In the beginning, Swami Vivekananda, in order to make people understand these basic concepts, at that time, when Swamiji went to America, people had no idea about India. No idea means even in 1980s, there is this Indiana Jones series. Okay, recent, you might have all seen or might not have seen also. Angelina Jolie, she acted in one of those series. But earlier in 1980s, there were the Indiana Jones movies. And in Indiana Jones movies, that is basically a treasure hunt. So they go and they hunt some treasure from some archaeological place, something excavate, etc. So there will be a lot of fighting, etc. That is the thing. So Indiana Jones movies, in some movies they show that Indian kings, they are now having breakfast. And because these people have gone to find the treasure to India, they have to, share the breakfast table. They have to sit and they have to dine. They have to have breakfast at the table with Indian kings. And so it is disgusting for them, because what are Indian kings having? They are eating snakes, live snakes from monkey skulls. Okay, it is shown. If you don't believe me, Indiana Jones movie 1980s, you see, it's all there in YouTube also, you will get. So they are eating like that. What kind of pottery? Which Indian king eats like that? I think they got confused it with China king. Huh? I don't know. But anyway, which Indian king eats like that? Nobody eats. That is the horrible idea people had about India in 1980. Thanks to Y2K problem, Indians suddenly became IT professional. Now every Indian is an IT professional. Anybody who does not know IT also, if they go, oh, Indian, no, IT. Yeah, okay, they have decided now. And now also Google and Microsoft, everybody is an Indian. So if you're an Indian, you're an IT professional. But those days it was not like that. And imagine when Swami Vivekananda went to America in 1893, it was quite altogether a different ball game. People had no idea about India. They are asking, oh, we have heard that there is something called Jagannath. So Jagannath, they could not pronounce properly. So they have done Juggernaut. Even till date, that word is there in Indian dictionary. Juggernaut means a big something which will crush you. Basically, it was Jagannath chariot, and that they have made Juggernaut something. So we have heard there is Juggernaut thing, and all the kids are thrown in front of the chariot to be crushed. And Swamiji also humored them. And somebody said that we heard that newborn infants are thrown to crocodiles. Swamiji said, yes, they also threw me, but I was so fat and chubby that crocodile could not chew me. So it spat it out. So Swamiji had to struggle with such a crowd. And at that time, he was the pioneer. Now every person there is a guru. If you know little music, if you know some tabla, 2 or 3 yogasana, then you are a guru, Indian guru in abroad. And it is truly the unfortunate case. But then at that time, Swamiji had to struggle. And so he was experimenting with translations in English. And he did it so wonderfully well that even today when we read it, it is so live. English, his English. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhita. Free translation, keeping the spirit and the meaning, and he did that. But had Swamiji come now, he would immediately understand that it is not necessary, because many of these words have now gained popularity. For example, karma, you don't need to translate it. Everybody says now in Hollywood movies, etc. You see, it's my karma, bad karma. They know that what is the meaning. So similarly, let us keep to the original phrase or the original word, because when you translate, the whole meaning changes. Like one example is soul, etc. So bliss also has got so many ways it has been used. Let us not confuse it. When we say bliss, people get all the wrong ideas. So it's not bliss in that kind of sense. It is ananda. So let us just use the word ananda. So ananda dyeva khalu imani bhutani jayante. So all these bhutani, of course not ghosts, but living beings, all these living beings have been born, indeed, khalu, indeed, from what? Anandat, from Ananda. Ananda. And Anandena Jatani Jivanti. So we have to remember that Shankaracharya is emphasizing that this is the decisive statement. He's saying that Yatova Imani Bhutani Jayante, that is not the decisive statement. This is the decisive statement. Why, we will know afterwards. That Ananda, this Ananda is being talked of here. This Ananda is not the Ananda which we get in the Anandamaya Kosha. There is a huge discussion later on in the first chapter of the Brahma Sutras. After the Chatusutri and all is over, later on. So Ananda, what Ananda is being talked of here is not the Ananda when you get some ice cream or pizza or burger or idli dosa or paratha, whatever is that which makes you happy. Or some people might be now very Ananda because this all these T20 is going on. So whatever brings you Ananda, that is because of Anandamaya Kosha, very much in the realm of ignorance. That Ananda is not talked of here. Here Ananda is your Swarupa, your true nature, your Swabhava, that is your true nature, your true form, true nature, and that is of Atman or Brahman. And that is why Shankaracharya says, this is a Nirnayaka Vakyam. This is a decisive, conclusive statement. Anandati eva khalu imani bhutani jayante. Anandena jatani jivanti. Also, they are sustained by that ananda. Anandam prayanti abhisambhishanti. And when they depart or when they pass or when they die, they go back to ananda. So, anyani api evam jatiya kani vakyani. But also, you see, one thing he immediately clarifies, that though this sutra is explaining this particular passage from the Taittiriya Upanishad, anyani api evam jatiya kani vakyani. There are also many other sentences or passages which are evam jatiya kani, of the similar nature, of this nature, which, what do they do? Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Swabhava, Sarvagya, Swarupa, Karana Vishayani. So there are also many other Upanishadic passages of this nature which talk about, or which have as its Vishaya or subject, which have as its matter of discussion, Nitya, eternal, Shuddha, pure, Buddha, conscious, Mukta, free, Swabhava. Swabhava means having the nature of. So the thing or entity which by its nature is eternal or eternally pure, eternally intelligent, eternally conscious, eternally free, and eternally sarvagya. It is omniscient. Swarupa Karana Vishayani, which is omniscient and which is the cause. Karana. Karana means of what? Of this universe. So in Bengali, Karana also means liquor. So Sri Ramakrishna, whenever he used to hear the word liquor, he used to go into Samadhi. Now we can do some research to find out what did not cause Samadhi for Sri Ramakrishna, because obviously everything is causing Samadhi to this wonderful person. So he heard this word Karana, he will go into Samadhi. Why? Because then immediately he is reminded of Brahman, which is the Karana or the cause of the entire universe. So the other Upanishadic sentences or passages which have the same nature, they talk about, or the subject of those passages is that particular entity, that is Brahman, which is eternally pure, eternally intelligent, eternally free, and which is omniscient, which is of the nature of omniscience, and which is the cause of this universe. And so, udahartavyani, those passages also can be cited as examples. That means, I am telling here the Taittiriya Upanishad passage as the example I am quoting it, but it is not necessary that that is the only example. Okay, it is not the only example. There can be other examples also, because there are plenty of other Vedantic passages which talk of Brahman being the cause of this universe, which talk of Brahman being the cause of this universe. So those examples can also be quoted, but for this purpose here, Shankaracharya is quoting from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Now in this section, now here ends our discussion on this section, which is called Janmadya Adhikarana. Janma Adi Adhikarana. So Janma Adi Adhikarana, here the subject was that the Taittiriya Upanishad, which is the passage Yatova Imani Bhutani Jayante, starting with these words, that passage talks of Brahman as the source of this world. Brahman is the source of both birth, means birth, sustenance, not both, birth, sustenance, and destruction of this world. And so then there is a doubt, which is, how is it possible that Brahman can be the source of, or Brahman can be the cause of the birth sustenance and destruction. And then that particular doubt is cleared. And then there is another doubt that maybe you're not talking about Brahman, you're talking about Ishvara. That is also cleared. Then there is another doubt that why can't we know it through sense perception, that is using 6 means of knowledge and sense organs. That is also cleared, saying that though it is a known entity, it cannot be known through our sense organs because sense organs cannot know Brahman. So that is the structure of the sutra and its discussion by Shankaracharya. And now here we have to understand that this particular sutra, it only talks about the first sutra is, what is the first sutra? Athato Brahma Jignasa. So after that, thereafter, therefore. Atha means thereafter, after something. And atah, therefore, there is the desire to know Brahman. Then comes Janmadyasya Yataha. That means Janma Adi Asya, of this universe, Janma and Sthiti and Bhanga. That means birth, sustenance and destruction, Yataha, from which it happens. So these two things are connected. So the Brahman which we are going to, or we are desiring to know, is not just any other entity. It is the very source of the sustenance and the birth and destruction of the entire universe. Thereby, there is a corollary here that if we know Brahman, everybody says Brahman, oh, one knows Brahman means one becomes Sarvagnya. What does that mean? Somebody has known Brahman. You go to that person and say, hey, now you have become Sarvagnya, teach me artificial intelligence. That person might not be able to teach you artificial intelligence because that is not how it works. Sarvagnya means because Brahman is the source of the birth and sustenance and destruction of the entire universe. If you know the source, you know everything. That is the idea. So that is what the Upanishad shows. Upanishad tells when the disciple goes and asks, Kasminno Bhagavan Vijñate Sarvamidam Vijñatum Bhavatam Iti. So what is that which it's known? When known, everything is known. So give me that one thing which is known. When it is known, everything is known. That is the question in the Upanishads. And so that question is what is being answered here. The Brahma Sutras, first sutra says that there should be desire to know Brahman. And for that you should have sadhana chatushtaya. That is also has been cleared by Shankaracharya. Once you are grounded in sadhana chatushtaya, viveka, vairagya, shama, damadi, shatka, sampatti and mumukshutva, once you are grounded in that, then you have the desire to know Brahman. And when you have desire to know Brahman, the question comes, why do you have to desire to know Brahman? Because it is the source of everything. So if you know that, you know everything. So thereby you become Sarvagya, you become omniscient, or you become all-knowing. All-knowing, there are some people, very irritating people there. If you ask them anything, they'll say, oh, that I know that. Not that kind of all-knowing. Truly all-knowing because you know the source of things. So this logic is what will lead us to the next sutra also. Why is Brahman the source of things? That will be cleared there. And also we will understand that Brahman can be known only through scriptures or Vedas, because it is only Vedas which talk about Brahman. No other scripture or no other text talks about Brahman. Means the first text which comes chronologically and talks about Brahman are the Vedas. Only from the Vedas, authoritatively, authentic information we get that Brahman exists. Otherwise, through empirical knowledge, we can never understand Brahman. We can never know the existence of Brahman even. Only through Vedas we get the proof. And that is why Vedas are the source of Brahman. So that is one another idea will come there. So all these sutras are connected. it's a very cogent form of presenting these ideas which are found in the Upanishad, not only just presenting, but making our making our conviction very strong, because it is discussed and thoroughly analyzed. And so that is what is done in the Brahma Sutras. And as I have told you earlier also, the first 4 sutras are considered to be representative of the first of the 4 chapters of Brahma Sutra. And if you have understood the Adhyasa Bhashya and the first 4 sutras, then understood means with conviction. If it has really gone into your bone marrow, then you will become Brahmagyani. That means you will get knowledge of Brahman. Otherwise, you will waste a lot of time, because there are 555 sutras. So the point is, along with this kind of discussion, one has to first get equipped in the sadhana chatushtaya. Sadhana chatushtaya. Once one gets equipped or gets grounded in sadhana chatushtaya, then these things make more sense and it's easy to understand. So Sri Ramakrishna says that pure mind is Guru. So sadhana chatushtaya is nothing but purification of mind, paths to purify mind, means to purify our mind. If we purify our mind and then we study this Upanishads, etc., then Tattvamasi, when we hear, then immediately we will say Aham Brahmasmi. Not just say, because we will realize. That realization comes within. So we will say Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Are there any questions? No question. So you're already gone beyond questioning. So you're almost reaching there, huh? Going beyond everything. Okay. No question? Chat also no question. Smriti, any question?
No, Swamiji.
Huh?
No, Swamiji.
Okay. So, Shubhadeep?
No, Maharaj.
No question. So then we will end here. Shubharatri. We will continue day after tomorrow. Shubharatri. Namaste.